Hello. Hello and welcome to another video on my channel. It's been a little bit, but we're back and I have a lot to talk about today. Basically, I love K-dramas. I watch them obsessively and I started forming theories and getting very excited about some of the dramas I've seen this year. I started with Startup basically, and I became obsessed with Startup and all of the fan theories about it, and I ended up writing a couple things on it on Medium, and that was really fun, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And so I kind of want to test out doing a video format of talking about K-dramas on YouTube, and what better drama to do that with than with Penthouse, which is a drama that just ended, and I binged it all in 3 days. And I have a lot of thoughts. Basically, there's going to be a specific format to this video because I have a lot of thoughts, and the best way to describe my thoughts on this drama is by talking about the theory that I have about it. And it's very complicated. And so this is going to be a spoiler-filled video talking about my theory for season 2. And so we're going to start off with some assumptions that I'm going to make. I'm going to talk about my theory and how that could affect the next couple seasons. And so with that being said, I wouldn't watch this until you've seen the first season. So, without further ado, I'm going to start with sort of the concrete foundations of this theory. The first one being, I'm going to assume that nothing is an accident in this drama. I'm going to assume that Seojin is alive, and I'll get to why, a little more on why in a second. But I'm going to assume that the theory that she is alive is true. And I'm also going to assume that Oh Yoonhee is alive, which I think is a little more obvious. And I think those are all of my theory assumptions. So first, I'm going to assume that the twin theory is correct. And there's a reason why I do that, mostly because everything that I've seen about it checks out to me. The earring part of her death, the ring, she's not wearing her wedding ring when she dies, I think that checks out in the theory that the mother of the twins looks just like her. I'm going to assume that that's correct. So I'm also going to assume that she's not dead because gods are immortal. And in my theory, it basically is completely dependent on the idea that the characters in the drama correspond and or are loosely connected to the 12 Olympians, or just Greek gods in Greek mythology. And I think the reason that I came up with this is pretty obvious. They live in Hera Palace. Hera, the goddess, is very important in the entire show because the statue is very important. It's where Min Seola dies. It's basically the entire show is based off of this imagery of Hera. And Hera, to me, is quite obviously connected to Seojin, and there's multiple reasons why. One, she is on this hunt for revenge. Two, Min Seola dies in the arms of Hera, in the arms of her mother, and it's basically, to me, that was just very symbolic and obviously Seojin is Hera. And so it started with that. My theory started with that. Assuming that she's alive and assuming that she is Hera. And I think that those are, connecting her to Hera is quite an obvious connection. Now, my theory of season 1 is dependent on the Trojan War, and the reason I got here, and the Iliad. So the reason that I got here is because I started Googling things. I started thinking, what if this Hera Palace is supposed to be Mount Olympus, and they are all corresponding to gods. So I needed a list of Olympians, and I got one, and then I realized that each god was connected to which side they supported in the Trojan War in the Iliad. So I put out a list and I listed out which side each god was on. And the Greeks were Hera, Athena, Poseidon, Hermes, and Hephaestus. And then the Trojans, Zeus, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, and Aphrodite. So, to me, this is a very clear split up. And it works in the show once I tell you who I think each god is, like, supposed to be. So, I sort of started writing down notes about each god. And I came up with some very interesting things about each god. Now, I don't think that, like, everything that happens is going to be exactly like Greek mythology, or even that each character is, like, neatly into one Greek god, because, honestly, if I were to write a script and it was slightly based off of Greek mythology and I wanted it to be as shocking as Penthouse is, I wouldn't make it exactly the same, because then you kind of, if you have any sort of knowledge of Greek mythology, you don't know. But I think that the references to Hera specifically are not an accident, and I think that there's more to than just the Hera references. So, in my notes, Hera Palace is obviously Mount Olympus. And another thing that I found on the internet that was very interesting is that Mount Olympus, in one website, it was like Greek gods and goddesses.net. So not like that reliable probably, but it's that the 12 Olympians are a powerful group of gods that meet on Mount Olympus to discuss matters. And that was an interesting way to put it to me. And in my mind, I just think of, like, all of the times that they had these councils and, like, had conversations about kicking people out and all this stuff. That was quite obvious to me. And then the secondary title, War in Life, kind of solidified the idea that season 1 is definitely connected to the Trojan War and the Iliad. So once you split up the gods into the Greeks and the Trojans, it gets kind of easy from there. So Apollo and Artemis, the twins, famous, obviously the twins in the show. This is where it gets a little complicated. So we have Hera, we have Artemis and Apollo, which are kind of like the obvious connections to me. Then I looked at the Trojan War itself. So it started with the judgment of Paris, and that was a golden apple was thrown, and it was the fairest. It had the fairest written on it, and basically Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite competed to be, like, who was the fairest. And I think it was Zeus who was supposed to decide, and then he didn't want to, so he made Paris decide. But anyways, I don't think that Paris and Helen are relevant, honestly, but I think that we're just going to assume that Zeus made the decision and chose Aphrodite, and so I am going to say that Aphrodite is Seojin. My theory is strengthened by the fact that the Trojan War starts with the golden apple, and if you don't know, in Korean, and this is actually one of my favorite things because it's the same in English and Korean. So, like, apple and apology, you could make, like, a pun about apology, you know, whatever. But so the word for apology and the word for apple are the same. And I believe there's, like, a joke that's made in, like, Boys Over Flowers or something. I've never seen it, but about how, like, an apple is like an apology. You know what I'm saying? So the way that the characters in this drama basically gain their power is by getting apologies for people that they deem lesser than. So we see this with Min Seola especially, because she even has the apple necklace. They, like, basically, like, only feel powerful when they're making her apologize to them for something that she didn't do. That leaves Oh Yoonhee to be Athena. So once we go there, I looked at more of the gods and what they represent. So Ares is a god that I don't really have a distinctive answer to, just because I think that he could be Judante. I think that Judante could either be Zeus or Ares, or both. And I do have two gods for each, or for some people, just because I think that it's obvious, it's just not clear cut, and it's not supposed to be, and that's fine. One thing that was interesting that I have written about Ares is that twin giants stormed Mount Olympus and imprisoned the god for a year and was freed by Hermes. And then in the Trojan War in the Iliad, Hera and Athena plot to harm Ares. Also important in the Iliad, Hera declares that the Trojans must be destroyed. Hera persuades Athena to aid the Greeks in battle, and she agrees to assist with interfering on her behalf. This to me echoes exactly what happens in season 1. We see Hera and Athena teaming up together against the Trojans, or the wealthy group in the television show. And to me, I think the Trojans represent the wealthy, the Greeks represent the less wealthy, I guess. I mean, the whole thing is just a fight between the residents of Hera and the others. So to me, it just makes complete sense. Now, with my assumption that I made that gods are immortal and that gods don't die, I'm making an exception to that because Hephaestus as Min Seola. So, Hephaestus was famously thrown from Mount Olympus and also shed light on the affair between Aphrodite and Ares, and that is why I think Ares could very well be Judante as well as Zeus could be Judante. And Hera is the mother of Hephaestus. So to me, that just 100% means that Min Seola is based on Hephaestus. Now, obviously, Hephaestus was the husband of Aphrodite, but I think we're just going to ignore that for creativity's sake. And then Hermes, I have written down that Hermes, and at first I thought, okay, maybe Hermes is supposed to be, I forget his name, the lawyer, mama's boy character. I literally don't even remember his name, but I felt like he wasn't that important. Like he was, but like he wasn't that important in the first season, and so I decided against it, but I think it makes sense with Logan Lee. So Hermes represents the crossing of boundaries, guide between the two realms of gods and humanity, patron of languages, celebrated by gamblers, and in the Iliad they thought he supported the Trojans but actually supported the Greeks. And I think that is it makes sense that Logan Lee would be sort of Hermes because, first of all, the gambling, they were going to make a casino. And then the patron of languages I thought was interesting because he's like speaks English for half of the show. And he's sort of like this like gray area at first. Like you don't know what his loyalty is. He's represented as a very wealthy person, and then they were even going to offer him, the residents of Hera Palace were going to offer him a place in Hera Palace, but he literally, and very clearly at one point supports the cause of Seojin. So I think that it makes sense that Hermes is Logan Lee. Okay, where else we got? Poseidon. The way I got to Poseidon as being Oh Yoonhee is because of his relationship with Demeter. And when I look at the information about Demeter, she's the lover of Zeus and Poseidon, the mother of Persephone, and famously tries to save Persephone from Hades. And so I feel like her relationship with the Judante, which was a shock to me, let me tell you, I was so mad, and her relationship with Poseidon, and Oh Yoonhee, definitely corresponds with Demeter's relationship with Zeus and Poseidon. Now, based on this framework of my theory, I am going to make some predictions. This is basically based on this theory completely, what I think might happen in the next 2 seasons, if not the next season. First of all, Beirona corresponds with Persephone. And I think that, in my opinion, there is no character that represents Hades. It could be someone that we already know, or they could develop a different plot in season 2. So based on that, I believe that Beirona will be kidnapped in the 2nd season. So I believe that a character will be introduced and or be more developed in the 2nd season that corresponds with Hades, and I believe that the Persephone Hades, I don't know if there will be a relationship and there will be another love interest For Beirona, even though I like what they have going right now and I want to see that developed currently, but I believe she'll be kidnapped. I think we've seen Oh Yoonhee be kidnapped, so like that could also be developed from the Persephone Hades myth, especially since I associated Oh Yoonhee with Demeter. But there's a reason why I think it's a different character, and it is because the butterfly tattoo. So we know that there is another like character that will be introduced within the next 2 seasons, and that is the true mother of the twins. And she has, basically all we know about her is that she has a butterfly tattoo. And also the popular theory right now that proves that Shimsuryeon is alive is that she has a twin, and it's or someone that looks exactly like her, and that has the butterfly tattoo, and that is the mother of the twins. So the theory is that the real biological mother of the twins died in place of Shimsuryeon. So when you look up the Greek symbolism for the butterfly, you get Psyche. And that reminds me of It's Okay to Not Be Okay. If you saw that drama, they literally make a reference to the butterfly meaning Psyche in Greek. There's really only one myth that you can uncover about Psyche, but if I literally just Googled, is the butterfly symbolism in Greek mythology, and the ancient Greeks imagined the souls of the dead in the form of a butterfly. So, if the butterfly represents the souls of the dead in this drama, which I couldn't find much information about that, it was literally just one sentence, but I saw it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. The dead twin or whoever could be connected to this new character Hades, and could be a whole new revenge plot of like Hades getting revenge, or the character who represents Hades getting revenge for the death of the twin. And since we think that, or we know Oh Yoonhee didn't actually kill her, Shimsuryeon, but the whole world basically thinks she does because she admitted to it. So why wouldn't Hades, or this character who is associated with Hades, he would obviously try to get revenge, and the best way to do that is to kidnap her daughter. And so that's why I think Beirona will be kidnapped. Also, some other things, obviously the twins are going to have a way bigger role in the second season. You can just see it happening, especially with the popularity of Sokun. He will obviously have a bigger role because everyone on Twitter was obsessed with him. I don't see the other kids having a bigger role, honestly, but there could also be a revenge arc with the twins as well. I also see the music competition playing out. That's actually something that happens in Greek mythology, and Apollo wins, so that could be relevant. Hercules. So there's a lot about Hercules and Hera, and having Hercules be Hera's enemy, and Hercules going through these labors and tests sent by Hera, from what I gathered, like the little that I gathered. And it would make a very interesting plot point. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Maybe season 3. I feel like the second season will definitely be some redemption arcs, a kidnapping. I definitely think Beirona's getting kidnapped. A lot of people thought Beirona was going to die in the last episode. I don't think so. I think she's going to be kidnapped. Hercules has a fight with Ares. Apollo sent Hercules to kill someone, an enraged Ares. And Hera's enemy is Hercules. So I don't know if that's ever gonna be a thing. This is just basically my thoughts behind what could be the inspiration for some of these things, and I think that depending on how the second season goes, this could be a very good way to predict what happens and be a little less shocked at all of the events. And yeah, there's a lot of other things. I think that the flowers might have significance. I mean, they actually definitely do, because there's a comment that's made about flowers and the meaning of flowers. And I feel like flowers just always have meaning in dramas. Or, oh, and even I think the fact that the real mother of the twins actually looks like Seojin is solidified by, there was a comment made in the drama that one of the twins has her eyes or something like that. Right? So like maybe the real biological mother actually looks like her. You know what I'm saying? So that's just sort of what I was thinking. I want to know your thoughts. If you've seen the drama, I definitely want to know what you think. It's really complex, and like it's not completely thought out because honestly, we don't have that much material. I know that we have like 21 episodes, but like so much happened, but also not enough for this theory to be completely developed. I think it's like a very loose framework for the drama. I don't think it's like exact, because I think if it was exact, it'd be boring, and it's definitely not a boring drama, and it's definitely complex. And so there's a lot of things to think through, and I think that there's a lot of other things we can look at. Also, I want to say in the tarot reading, the death card does not actually always mean death. It means a death of something, an idea, and it could be a transformation, a rebirth, if you will. That's the first thing I thought of when they did the tarot card, but I didn't look at the full tarot reading, so, and I'm also not an expert in tarot readings. I just have them done quite frequently because I love them. That's just my penthouse idea, and I'm so excited for season 2. We don't have that much longer to wait, and yeah, I'll leave you with that theory. See you next time. I'm excited to develop this more as the episodes in season 2 get released. Because not that I think that I'm right and like the only answer is me being right, but I think I made some points here. So yeah. I will see you next time. If my hair looked stupid this whole time, I'm gonna be so pissed. Okay, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.